Get. Where's Councilmember Ortiz? He's not here. I think we could get started. Before I begin the regular city council meeting closed session, I would like to remind members of the audience that anyone wishing to speak during public comment must obtain a number card from the city clerk. If you did not obtain a number and wish to speak, please proceed to the back of the room and city staff will issue you a number card. Excuse So I would like to call to order the regular city council meeting closed session. The time is 5:36. City Clerk Duarte, will you please call the roll starting and leave Ortiz for last?
Sure, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa.
Present.
Councilmember Pemberton.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sosa.
Present.
Mayor Trujillo.
Present. Go for it.
And Councilmember Ortiz.
Present.
Now is the time for public comment. I remind speakers that this public comment period is reserved for comments about the items listed under the closed session agenda. There's an opportunity later in the meeting for general public comment. This is a business meeting and we have business to attend to in the next hour. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council regarding closed session items. I would like to remind members of the audience that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Members of the audience and speakers who violate these rules and cause a disruption will receive 1 warning and then may be removed from the meeting. Violations of the rules of decorum for council meetings may also result in an administrative fine under the municipal code or a citation under misdemeanor penal code section 403. City Clerk Duarte, did we receive any written public comment regarding closed session items to be incorporated into the record?
We did not, Mayor.
Is there a motion and a second to receive and file written
So
public
moved.
comment?
And second.
We won't need the motion since there's no written public comment.
Great. City Clerk Duarte, how many speakers have taken a number?
We don't have any speakers, Mayor.
Is there a motion and a second to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
So ordered by the mayor. City Council will now recess to close session under the following authorities. Number 1, Government Code Section 54957, subsection B, subsection 1, Public Employee Appointment, Title, Economic Development Director. Number 2, Government Code Section 54957, subsection B, subsection 1, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Title, City Attorney. We will now recess to close session. The time is 5:38. Good evening. I will now call to order before we begin the regular city council meeting, I'm going to reconvene the regular council meeting closed session. City Attorney Funk, will you please report the closed session action?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and members of the public. The City Council tonight convened in closed session to take up both matters on the closed session agenda. The reportable action is as followed. By unanimous ratification, the City Council approved the appointment of an Economic Development Director, Mr. Austin Ramirez. That concludes my report.
Before we begin the regular city council meeting open session, I would like to remind members of the audience that anyone wishing to speak during public comment must obtain a number card from the city clerk. If you did not obtain a number card and wish to speak, please proceed to the back of the room and city staff will issue you a number card. Thank you, Lisa, for handling that for us. Lining up during public comment will not be permitted, and each speaker should remain in their seat until the number is called. The time clock will begin when you begin your comments. I will now call to order the regular city council meeting open session. The time is 6:33 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa,
Present.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Present.
Councilmember Pemberton,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sosa,
Present.
and Mayor Trujillo.
Present. And now, to lead us in our invocation, we have Pastor Shane Hicks. I follow you on social media. Thank you for being here today. From Legacy Church of Downey, please come forward and lead us in invocation, sir. Come forward. To the podium.
To the podium.
Interesting to face all of you. Can I do this? How we doing, City of Downey? Really? Wow! Hold on. Hey, it is so good to be with all of you today. I am the lead pastor of Legacy Church of Downey, right across the street here, and I'm honored to be able to pray on Holy Week. If you didn't know that it's Holy Week, I don't know if you know that Jesus is God, because this is the week that we celebrate his death and resurrection. So I'd love for you to come join us on Good Friday, 7 p.m., Easter Sunday at 9:30 and 11 a.m. Right now, let's ask God to come and bless this meeting and to bless our city. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for who you are. You are the God of gods, the King of kings, the Lord of lords. And Jesus, we thank you so much that we are able to live in this beautiful state that you've given us, God. And Jesus, I just ask, Lord, that you would be with our leaders, God, that they would be guided by you and not by themselves. And Lord, that as they seek to direct us in a way that is profitable for all, Lord, I just pray that we would consider what it is that you want us to do in this city, God. This city is an old city, it's well established, and Lord, I ask that as we look forward, we would see the best days of Downey in the future, God, not in the past. And Lord, for all of these people, many have different pains, different sorrows, different trials, different things that they are struggling with. And Lord, I pray that you would touch each of their lives, that you would make yourself known to them, that you would prove that you are the God who heals, that you are the God who loves, that you are the God of truth. Lord, I ask that you would allow their lives to be blessed, that you would restore broken relationships, Lord, that you would heal sorrows. And Jesus, if there are people here who do not know you, that your name would be made known. Thank you so much for this city, God. May you bless it and keep it. It is in the name of Jesus Christ we all pray together. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Hicks. And now, please remain standing for our flag salute. To lead us in the flag salute, we have Emma. Emma is currently a first grader from Williams Elementary. She's a Daisy level in Girl Scout troop numbers 275, 363, and 7273. Emma, if you'll please come forward. There's a microphone at the podium. So we're gonna pull down the microphone or somehow help Emma speak into that microphone. So if somebody can help her, please.
Can you face this one?
When you're ready, Emma, you can start. Why don't we help Emma? Everyone put your hand over your heart and let's face the flag.
Ready?
All right, everybody facing the flag?
Say ready, begin.
Emma, you ready? Let's start this together. I pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's give Girl Scout Troop 275 an applause. Great job, Emma. I'm sorry.
Girl Scouts are 112 this year.
Thank you. Happy birthday, 112 years to Girl Scouts of America. Fantastic. And now's the time for, I taught kindergarten for 5 years. I don't know if you saw that. Now's the time for city council member announcements and requests for future agenda items, conference meeting and reports. I will start to my right with the representative for District 2, Mayor Pro Tem Hector Sosa.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see a full house tonight. Huge congrats to the Downey High dance team. I'm an old Warren Bear, and I mean that sincerely, okay? So, it's good to see everyone tonight. I'll keep my comments short. I did attend several events, but I'll just tell you about a couple of them. I did get the chance to attend wider education for Latino leaders up in San Jose, and there's so much to learn about water. I was blown away. I'm glad I went. Learned about microfiltration, reverse osmosis, UV light disinfection. I didn't know those terms before I went to San Jose. I learned two things: that there's so much more to learn about water, and I'm intrigued. And the other thing I learned is I don't really know much about water, so looking forward to learning more there. And I also attended FatherCon. Patrick Erlinson and his team, they had a screening at the Look Cinemas last week. Patrick Erlinson and his team are doing a tremendous job spreading awareness on human trafficking, and also the importance of having a father present in a child's life. So FatherCon is a good thing, and I want to support them as much as I can. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And the councilwoman for the 3rd District, Dorothy Pemberton.
Thank you, Mayor Trujillo. And I'll take your remaining time. I always seem to have something typed up. March is Women's History Month. And looking at these ladies, you did a historical thing as well in March, so congratulations. I researched a few of the top women that have been notorieties in Marie Curie, 1867. She had advances in science. She founded new sciences for radioactivity, and her discoveries launched the effective cures for cancer. She was also the first woman to win a Nobel Prize and the first person, not woman, to win a second Nobel Prize. Then we have Sally Ride. Sally was the first U.S. woman to fly in space as a mission specialist. She flew on the Space Shuttle Challenger in June of 1983. Sandra Day O'Connor was our first female Supreme Court Justice in 1981. Madeleine Albright was our first woman to serve as Secretary of State in 1997. So these are just a few of the women that have made first in our country and around the world. Also today, this month is March 29th is Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day. And I want to thank and give a shout out to Lee Squire for making this recognition known so that we always honor our fallen soldiers. And thank you, Lee, for your service. He is a Vietnam veteran as well. As my council colleague said, I did attend the 28th annual ARC Walk. We had all our umbrellas. Most of us were all there. It was great to support them. I am the Downey trustee for the Greater LA County Vector Control District, the mosquitoes. You get the water, I get the mosquitoes. And it's a public health agency to help reduce populations of vectors which are associated with mosquitoes. Some of the topics they talked about is trying to get seasonal hiring. They are looking for part-time hiring if you're looking for a part-time job, and they need about 40 people to be staffed. We had to increase the pay scale as the minimum rate is going to $20 an hour April 1st. So it's hard as well to attract them to fill their voids just like we do in some of our departments. And in short, real quick, they are trying to do sterilization of insects so that we can have less breeding in the summer. I attended the Police and Fire Department Employee of the Year Award banquet, and that was hosted by the Masonic Lodge in Downey. They both had 5 years of employees to honor, so it was a real nice event to see all the families there. He mentioned, Mayor Pro Tem mentioned FatherCon screening, and parents really need to get aware of how predators are finding the children on the internet. And there's ways to do that in getting a filter on the phone to watch what's being done so that we can try to prevent this. Another committee I'm on is the Budget Subcommittee meeting. Met with our finance director, city manager, and Mayor Trujillo. And this covers the period from July of 23 to December 31st of 23. And quickly, I would say that our sales tax revenue is down a little. Water fund revenue is down a little due to the rain, but the golf fund is up, so we still have golfers out there. Expenditures seem to be higher for police and fire, mainly due to some of the staff shortages, and so it's overtime. So we are going to really closely watch our budget so that we stay on target to reach our budget and remain in the black. So we want to make sure that we watch our costs. A thank you in particular. Have you seen our parking structure? It has a fresh coat of paint. It's bright, it's light, and we're also getting cameras in there. So thank you to staff for doing that. What else? We have a follow-up. There was a resident that wanted to have more hazardous waste roundups. But in checking with staff, that's a county type of a pickup or a drive. So it's not with our local trash with Athens. But I did find out that you can take paint, if you have excess paint up to 5 gallons, that you can go to the Sherwin-Williams dealer on Firestone Boulevard, right there by Target, 9788 Firestone, and they will accept up to 5 gallons of paint and toxic material that you have. We might look into getting more catalytic converter etching. I know we have certain days that we can have that, and it's always sold out, as the residents said. And we're going to also, was requested to look at the painting on the crosswalks. Firestone and Downey Avenue need painting, but I understand our staff is looking at that right there at the heart of downtown Downey. So that concludes my comments. We have a busy month. All of us are doing something that's different, which keeps our city strong. So I appreciate working with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The representative for the First District, Councilmember Horacio Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to see a full house, and congratulations, Downey High School. Well-deserved. Thank you so much. First, I attended the Keeping Downey Beautiful event that was conducted at our Space Center. We had a total of 95 volunteers at the event, which is a great turnout. I'm excited for the rest of Keeping Downey Beautiful events. I also attended the annual Good Luncheon with Mayor Pro Tem Hector Sosa, who did an amazing job as an MC. We all laughed at your jokes, so I just want to say that out loud. I also was invited to the Rio San Gabriel Elementary School open house by my nephew. Got a little tour of the school, and I just want to give a shout out to him. Ali Tio loves you and is proud of your success, so I'm very happy of everything you have accomplished. I attended the Gallatin Elementary Slime Award ceremony, where our very own mayor was slimed 5 different times by different students who were the top fundraisers. He enjoyed it very much. Mayor Trujillo, Gigi, and Dr. Garcia and others were slimed as well. I also attended the 28th annual ARC Walk with the majority of our council colleagues. Rain or shine, we were all there, so I was pretty happy to show some support. And lastly, I also attended a neighborhood watch meeting yesterday. I have a goal of starting 20 new neighborhood watch groups by the end of the year. I have 7 down and 13 to go, so I'm pretty happy of where we're going with that. Today, I just want to mention, if I can have staff look into it, a resident reached out to me in regards to an incident that occurred at Furman Park. I would like to see if we can request extra patrol in the park areas, because yesterday there was a homeless person who was exposing himself and doing illicit actions in front of children. Some parents were trying to remove him from that area, and unfortunately he came back twice. I was told that he's been going there very often between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. So I was hoping we can have a little extra patrol during that time so we don't have those instances from occurring. And lastly, I just want to wish everybody a happy Easter, and hopefully you guys enjoy with your family and loved ones. With that, I conclude my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Former Mayor Claudia Fermetta from the 4th District.
Thank you for that. Good evening, everybody. It's always nice to see a bigger house joining us. This is your council meeting, and I am so proud to be able to represent Northeast Downey and represent all of the city of Downey. I always say engaged communities are strong communities. I've had the pleasure of attending numerous events throughout the last couple of weeks with some of my council colleagues as well. And as I've said before, it is so nice to have a full council now. We can certainly attend together, but also divide and conquer, and attend and make sure we follow up on the requests of our residents. I attended the Kiwanis event with some of our council colleagues, the annual Gangs Out of Downey luncheon, where we celebrated its 35th annual event. And this was started by a handful of Downey residents 35 years ago who began to see gang activity in the city of Downey. And these were not elected officials. These were just concerned residents that wanted to do something about it. And this goes to show that there are people in this community that are so in love with this city and that can give a little bit of their time and volunteer and look for opportunities to serve. And another event that I also attended was Human Trafficking Awareness by Father Con. And since my first time I was elected in 2018, one of the areas that I've been very passionate about is the human trafficking awareness. One of the things, a film that was shown at the Look Cinemas with Father Con indicated that 32% of minors consider the friends they make online to be their closest confidants. 83% of the current active sex trafficking cases involved the internet as the primary method of solicitation. So as I know we have a room full of parents and certainly high schoolers, it is important. We have so many social media platforms, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. It is crucial that we have these conversations and that we also establish safeguards for our children, because what we're dealing with now and the ways predators are reaching to our children through social media is really at an alarming rate. These are things that we didn't think about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. One of the other things that I also attended was Public Safety Policy Committee. I am the chair for that committee for the League of California Cities, which represents 480 cities across the state of California. And we had our quarterly meeting. We discussed the bills, the priority legislation going before both houses, the Assembly and the Senate, and the bills dealing with retail theft and how we need to have increased penalties, particularly for repeat offenders. Also, issues dealing with fentanyl and human trafficking. I did that as well. And I was very honored to have been invited by Alameda Elementary. The mayor and I had an opportunity to be at the Read Across America at Alameda Elementary a couple of weeks ago. And we also attended the Women's Empowerment event put together by the Chamber of Commerce. So once again, happy birthday to the Girl Scouts, which turn 102 in March. And I do want to recognize a few important people in the audience. I know you're all important, but we do have some VIPs as well, starting with my planning commissioner, Carrie Uva, who is here. Thank you for joining us tonight. I will also like to recognize the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert. Thank you for joining us. Also, we have additional commissioners from Parks and Rec and Public Works. We've got Jeannie Wood, we've got Elvira Meraz, and we also have my incoming Public Works Commissioner, John Whittle. You can please stand. And I also would like to recognize, are there any individuals, Vietnam or any veterans joining us, aside from Lee Squire tonight? Would you please stand? Thank you, veterans. I also, Ernie, you're in one of the commissioners as well, I think is Parks and Rec. Thank you for joining us tonight. And with that, all I would like to ask a couple of items to staff, and that is, again, thanking our police and fire for continuing to keep our community safe. I know we are heading into a busy time with spring break. I would like to request, of course, additional patrol for excessive speed. I know we've got youngsters out on the road, and with spring break festivities, our roads can be a little crowded. Also, as my council colleague here indicated, extra patrol in the parks is necessary. We are seeing and continue to see an increase in transient activity, and if we can please do that, that would be fantastic. One last item is for code enforcement and certainly for our community development. We know that those shopping centers south in South Downey continue to be plagued with areas that need to be cleaned up and maintained. And if we can please ensure that those management companies or the owners of those shopping centers maintain their areas to city code, that would be greatly appreciated. That is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I also attended several of the events that my colleagues have already reported on. A couple of additional events. A group of mayors from the Southeast met with the new Consul General from Mexico. I asked our city manager to look into bringing the Consulado en Ruedas, the consulate on wheels. They would set up somewhere in Downey for about a month. I know we have a lot of individuals who are interested in obtaining dual citizenship with Mexico that would facilitate that for you, or any resident has any issues dealing with documentation with Mexico, they would assist with those services. So we're looking into bringing the Mexican consulate here temporarily to provide services for Downey. The city manager and I were able to meet with Congresswoman Sanchez. She has a small part of Downey, the part adjacent to Norwalk. And unfortunately, she was not able to allocate any funds to us specifically, but she was supportive of Congressmember Garcia's request for the $850,000 that was allocated for the YMCA. So we thanked her for that. I was also able to attend the Razorbacks recruitment time. This is preseason for their kickoff. I was there with my planning commissioner, Luis Morales. One item that I would like, and please listen to what I'm saying carefully, I would like the staff to look to the possibility, or actually what the cost will be and what the impact would be to residents around 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and New Street. I would like for the council to consider renaming 2 or 3 streets, and I'm not saying these have to be the streets, to commemorate, memorialize the diversity of this city, particularly with Cubans, Mexicans, the Greeks. So maybe streets, something have to do with our sister city like Guadalajara. In regards to Cuba, maybe something like Havana Street. When it comes to the Greeks, and maybe something like Santorini, sort of give it that international flair that we're already known for with our International Food Festival. So again, I want staff to look into this. I'm not saying this is going to happen. The Downey Patriots here. I want to be clear. We're asking staff to look into this. It's not a done deal. The council would decide later, okay? Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. And with that, I want to wish everyone happy Easter and it's spring break. I'll be spending time with my 8th grader, my 14-year-old. And I encourage everyone to visit our parks. We have beautiful parks, 13 amazing parks that you just renovated with your tax fund. So please take advantage of the parks. Thank you very much. That concludes my comments.
Mayor Trujillo,
If I may add, oh,
sorry.
Councilwoman Pemberton.
Yes. I had expressed that the paint store would be taking paint. You can, but it's during business hours. I want to make sure that nobody drops off hazardous waste at a store when nobody's there. So just to clarify that.
Councilwoman Fermetta?
yes, thank you. I don't want to miss the opportunity to acknowledge the fact that my husband is here, Noveris Frometa. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes.
And my favorite all-time mayor, Mayor Rick Rodriguez, is in the audience, former mayor.
I'll second that motion. Yes.
And longtime Rotarian president, as well as chamber ex-president, John Lacey is here.
Thank you. Now it's the time for city manager and staff member comments. City Manager Roger Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor. Just recapping some of the requests. Happy to have PD do some additional patrols at Furman Park, as well as around the community during the spring break time. Make sure we have a heightened awareness of what's going on in the community. I know our code enforcement team has been working hard throughout the whole city, but we're happy to pay some special attention to make sure there's nothing we didn't miss at the shopping centers in South Downey. I did want to quickly make note that we do or are going through a strategic planning process, and we have a community questionnaire that has been put out to get preferences from the community about what you'd like to see Downey become over the next 5 years. So as you may have seen on social media and at city facilities, the city is undertaking a strategic planning process, and we want to invite the public to take a moment to complete the community questionnaire for the Downey 2030 strategic plan. There are flyers in the back of the room and a poster in the lobby where you can scan a QR code to take you to the survey to let us know what your preferences are. The strategic plan outlines comprehensive goals and initiatives aimed at enhancing community development, infrastructure, and services to ensure vibrant and sustainable future for residents and stakeholders. So you're important to play a vital role in this process. And if you've taken the questionnaire, please share it with a family member and have them fill it out too. We would love to have that part of our feedback from you as we look at Downey in the future with the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Bradley. Now is the time for presentations. And tonight I'm very excited about this next award. And while it would be my honor to come down and present this award, I really thought that there's somebody else up here that'd be more appropriate. She's a big fan of the dance team, and she was just with you all. When she's not with us, she's usually with you. And that's Councilwoman Frometa, who's so dedicated and so proud of you, this amazing team. I remember my experience in Lowell High School, and we already recognized the Warren dance team. I chose the dance teams before the cheerleaders because I was in Spirit Squad in high school. And part of what we did was choose the dance team. And I always thought that it was harder to get on the dance team because of the all coordination that goes into dancing. I love to dance. I think I'm a pretty good dancer too, but it seems so fun and enjoyable, and what you're doing in representing us just makes us so proud. So tonight I'm gonna ask former Mayor Claudia Frometa to present the Mayor's Excellence Award to the Downey High School dance team for placing first in 3 separate categories in the 2024 Contest of Champions, the Nationals in Florida. And I know you just got back from San Diego and you killed it there as well. Oh, sorry, Anaheim. It was closer. I lost track. Anyway, so Mayor Frometa, will you please do me the honor of presenting the award? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I have to just say, go Vikes.
Yeah. My household is a Viking household. My son is class of 2013.
I am a Viking household, but as everybody knows, I too am a Warren Bear. And I'm sorry, Vikings, for wearing the wrong colors today. Thank you. Mayor, are you going to come down and join me as well?
A little bit for the picture.
Okay, all right. I want to, we wanted to
all will.
recognize, and of course, I will be presenting the mayor's award, Excellence Award, to the Downey dance team tonight. We know how hard you have worked this year. And ladies, I know the sleepless nights. I know the long practices. I do want to acknowledge your amazing director and coach, Leslie Patterson. Give her a big round of applause. Leslie started this dance program at Downey High School a little bit over 2 decades ago, 25 years ago. 21 years ago. And over the last several years, this program has grown and has become really a well-known program throughout. We saw your dedication and your commitment in Orlando just last month. And over this weekend, we also saw the amazing spirit at the USA Nationals, for which you also won 3 national titles. So give them a big round of applause. Assistant coaches Cassandra Garcia and Alicia Martinez are also part of this team. And once again, thank you. And I do want to acknowledge the parents. As parents, those of you that are here and perhaps some that could not join us tonight, this is really a labor of love. The parents are always involved, and the grandparents. They travel and they cheer for these wonderful athletes. And parents, thank you. Thank you, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas. Thank you for the time, the love that you've invested in these children. Many of you have been dancing since you were 4 or 5 years old. Many of you take top honors academically, and you also dance in a studio, plus you do ASB, and you are also on the dance team. So I don't know when you sleep, but thank you for joining us. As I call your names, if you can please come up, we will give you a certificate. Would you like to do this? Do this one.
I want to give it to the girls.
Okay.
When you name them.
Okay, so this is the Mayor's Excellence Award for Downey High School Dance Team on behalf of the citizens of Downey in recognition of your outstanding performance and for placing first place in 3 separate categories at the 2024 Contest of Champions Nationals, given this 26th day of March 2024. Mayor Mario Trujillo. If we can have Leslie Patterson come up and yes. Yes. If we can have Michaela Stevens come up. Kayla Silva. Priscilla Sandoval. Janelle Ornelas. Peyton Muawad. Nia Martinez. Nia. Nicole Lai. Penelope Jimenez. Sofia Garibaldi. Elena Garcia. Destiny Gallardo. And I think I may know this one coming up. Jessica from Meta. Isabella Escobedo. Brianna Elizondo. Lauren Curiel. Delaney Castillo. Isabella Campos. Allison Boer. Sophia Alamillo. And of course, we've got these for the coaches: Alicia Martinez, Cassandra Garcia, and Leslie Patterson.
Thank you.
And I'll give you these for them.
Thank you.
Come up, Jessica, go in front. Oh, Jessica.
I'm gonna move the podium, Mayor.
I'm gonna stay out of this. All right, you guys do it. Okay, continuing with the presentations. Tonight we have presentations of certificates of appointments. These are to committee and board members for districts 1, 3, and 4, individuals who are volunteering of their time to assist us, to advise us. And tonight we have the following individuals. We ask that you please come forward to receive your certificate. Cesar Ortiz was appointed to the Independent Oversight Committee for Council District 1 in addition to the Board of Building Appeals for Council District 1. Cesar, thank you for volunteering. Here you go. You have 2. 1 pen for you. All right. And then we have John Wilhite to the Public Works Committee for Council District 4. Mr. Wilhite, please come forward. Thank you so much for volunteering, sir. Thank you for what you do. It's a great commission. That's a big one, man. And we also have Mia Vasquez, appointed to the Public Works Committee for Council District 3. Commissioner Vasquez. City pen. Let's take a group picture. Thank you. Tonight, we honor and celebrate Vietnam veterans on National Vietnam War Veterans Day to recognize their courage, service, and sacrifice during a highly controversial period in U.S. history. This day marked on March 29th acknowledges the hardships these veterans faced, both in combat and from divisive reception they received upon returning home. It's a gesture of national gratitude and healing, ensuring their valor is remembered and respected, while also reminding us of the importance of supporting our veterans in all aspects of their lives post-service. Tonight, I would like to ask Ernie Delgado to come forward, and let me tell you a little bit about Ernie. We're asking him to, yes. We're asking Ernie to receive this proclamation. Ernie Delgado is a Vietnam veteran, served 13 months in Vietnam with the 3rd Battalion, 26 Marines, engaging in some of the toughest fighting, including the historic urban battle of Quezon. As a squad leader and grunt during a tumultuous era of war, his experiences are rivaled by few others. Ernie remains tightly connected to the Brotherhood of the Marines. Additionally, he is co-founder of Save the Brave, dedicating himself to assisting fellow veterans dealing with the effects of PTS. And for that, we would like to present this proclamation on this National Vietnam War Veterans Day. Ernie, thank you so much for your courage and your valor. Thank you. We're going to present you with the pin. Would you like to say a few words? Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I will now take public comment on agenda, consent calendar, and non-agenda items. If any members who were here for the presentations but need to get home to put children to bed, this might be a good time to exit, but you're welcome to stay the entire night. But we want to be mindful, we know that people have school tomorrow. Yes. Thank you, and congratulations. So while people are exiting, I will read the following. I will now take public comment on agenda, consent calendar, and non-agenda items. If you did not receive a number card and wish to speak, please proceed to the back of the room to be issued a number card by city staff. Before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the audience that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Copies of the meeting rules are located in the back of the chambers. Members of the audience and speakers who violate these rules and cause a disruption will receive one warning and then may be removed from the meeting. Violations of the rules of decorum for council meetings may also result in an administrative fine under the municipal code or a citation for a misdemeanor under Penal Code Section 403. The City Council acknowledges the right of the public to address issues that are within the city's jurisdiction and invites the public to do so during the City Council meeting. However, this right must be balanced with the need of the City Council to conduct the public business in a fair and efficient manner, free from disruption or disturbance. We expect that everyone who participates in today's meeting, from the members of the council here on the dais to staff to the members of the public public in attendance to do so with respect and dignity. Please refrain from using profanity, name-calling, or behaving in a way that disrupts this meeting. This includes yelling, whistling, booing, screaming, and any other outbursts that would disrupt or disturb this meeting. Any conduct that interferes with or disturbs persons who are addressing the City Council. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts council members while they are speaking, and any other conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Attacks of a personal nature on city staff or city council members that have no connection to agenda items or non-agenda items. I remind speakers that your comments must be addressed to me directly and not to any other council member, city staff, or the audience. City Clerk Duarte, did we receive any written public comment to be incorporated into the record?
Yes, Mayor. We received written correspondence from Marco Magaña. He submitted comments requesting speed limit signs with radar and flashing lights to be installed on Old River School Road between Florence and Firestone due to speeding vehicles, and also requesting patrol checks at Fairmont Park by the west side of the baseball fields due to illicit sexual activity taking place. We also received correspondence from Glenbrook Downey HOA regarding the increase in Athens trash rates and the negative impact it is having for their small community homes. And we also received correspondence from Michelle Farina urging the Downey City Council to propose and pass a resolution calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. Just in regards to speeding on Old River School Road, Chief, if we could perhaps increase the patrol there, or you may be doing this already, but there seems to be a perception that people are speeding on that. We'd ask that you look into that. Thank you. Is there a motion and a second to receive and file written public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
City Clerk Duarte, how many speakers have taken a number?
Yes, Mayor, we have 12.
Based on the number of speakers, each speaker will have 2 minutes to address the City Council. I remind all speakers that you must remain seated until your number is called. Speaker number 1, please come forward.
If I may say, my son, he prepared a 3-minute speech, so.
We'll make an exception.
Thank you.
I hope everyone understands. Thank you for speaking up. You may proceed when you're ready, speaker number 1.
Hi, my name is Jesse Castellanos, and I'm in 6th grade at Downey Middle School. Last year, I was motivated and by my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Peterson, to think about how I can contribute and give back to my community. So, over the last 6 months on my early dismissal days, I've been volunteering at my former elementary school, Unsworth. On March 13, 2024, my friend and I rode the Downey Link to get to Unsworth. However, on this particular occasion, getting to Unsworth safely did not go as planned. When the Downey Link dropped my friend and me on Cedar Tree Road, we exited in front of the bus to cross the street. I took a step forward and looked to my right, and out of nowhere, a car came to my left and swiped me. I was in shock. The impact of the car hit me at the left side of my arm and face. I held my hands to my face and then looked at my hands. My hands were covered in blood. It was the worst feeling of my life. My friend quickly rushed me inside of the bus so that I could be cared for. But inside the bus, all the bus driver did was wipe the 2-inch laceration with a wet wipe and put a Band-Aid on me. The driver of the car checked on me, and he said he had special needs people in his car and had to leave. Although he left, I learned later that day that he went to the police department to file a report. Sadly, all this happened steps away from Unsworth, and it wasn't until I got to Unsworth that I was properly treated and comforted. The school quickly called my parents, the police, and the paramedics. The paramedics said I needed to get stitches. So my mom drove me to the emergency room where I was monitored for 6 hours to make sure I didn't have a concussion. I got x-rays of my left arm, and I got 3 stitches on my left eyebrow. I was very lucky because I walked away from this traumatic accident with minor injuries. Although this has been a learning lesson for me to be extra careful and cautious while crossing unmarked streets, I feel that this accident could have been avoided if Cedar Tree Road had a crosswalk to access Unsworth. So after doing some research, On the California Office of Traffic Safety website, I found that pedestrians are more vulnerable to injuries every time they're on the road. It also stated that in 2021, there were 1,108 pedestrian fatalities in California, an increase of 9% from 2020. After reading this, I found myself feeling extremely lucky and blessed to not be part of that statistic. So today, I am here to respectfully demand of you, my City Council members, for a crosswalk off of Cedar Tree Road and Lindsay Street. Crosswalks are an essential component of a safe and pedestrian-friendly city. One of the main reasons why there should be a crosswalk on Cedar Tree Road and Lindsay Street is safety. This crosswalk would provide a clearly marked path for pedestrians to cross the street, making it easier for drivers to see and yield to them. Without this crosswalk, pedestrians are forced to cross the street at random locations, increasing the likelihood of accidents and injuries. By providing this designated crosswalk, we can help ensure the safety of everyone on the road. As such, it is important for you, our city planners and policymakers, to prioritize the installation of a crosswalk at Cedar Tree Road and Lindsay Street to create a more pedestrian-friendly and safe environment for all, especially us school-aged children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If I could ask our Public Works Director to approach the family and get their information. We're going to look into this intersection. I hear your request, young man. You're requesting that we look into installing a crosswalk at this location. We will look into that. Thank you for coming today. I want to call forward speaker number 2. Speaker number 2? Thank you. Okay, great. You are going to limit to the 2
Yes,
minutes.
I will have
okay,
2 minutes.
You okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Please proceed when you are ready. No rush.
Thank you. My son eloquently said what he needed to say today, but I'm here to just reaffirm that this was a really scary situation. And I've heard many of you have children that are school age, and I could only imagine that how traumatic this could be if this were to happen to your children. I did briefly have some pictures to show you. This just happened less than 2 weeks ago, but he did receive a 2-inch laceration to his eye. He did have some cuts and bruises to his left arm. We were in the emergency room for a long time, but I also wanted to show you that Cedar Tree, not only does it not have a crosswalk, but it also curves. So as it's curving, you're a blind spot to whoever is coming, even if you're trying to cross the road, at any moment. There are also no stop signs anywhere on Cedar Tree Road, and I think right now they're in the process of building a Chick-fil-A off of Serapis, which is also not far from Unsworth, which will also create a larger traffic in that area. I know that in the past, it has been brought up to the council about bringing in stop signs, crosswalks in that area, but it doesn't seem like there is enough foot traffic. However, during the last 5 years, Unsworth has had an increased amount of students, which leads me to believe that there should be a crosswalk, there should be stop signs. And as I further roamed around the city throughout other elementary schools, I found that Unsworth is the only one that has one crosswalk directly off of Lindsay. So I'm urging you to consider the safety of our students, of our children, and really think about putting a crosswalk, a stop sign, flashing lights, so that drivers can yield to our pedestrians. Thank you.
Yes, can I just ask, do you believe that there's a certain time of day that there's more traffic?
Well, obviously during school hours,
Okay.
there's definitely
Before school, right?
Before school,
after?
school.
Okay.
Unfortunately, drivers are not as careful during that time. Sometimes parents are in a rush and they're dropping off children, and sometimes children even get off of cars and run across the street. So that does happen. But I believe that this area is highly trafficked, and there's a lot of people walking through. So
We appreciate you coming
Thank you.
in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 3, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
City Council. My name is Randon Lane, and I serve as a Vice President of Government Affairs for Athens Services, your waste hauler. I am here this evening. As you know, in 2016, the state of California passed sweeping legislation for waste recycling and organics in the state of California. That law went into effect in January of this year. The city council here in the city of Downey, as you know, did not create these laws. The Athens Services did not create these laws, but as your hauler, your partner, our job is to make sure that the city is in compliance, its businesses and its residents are in compliance with this law. This law was implemented in the city of Downey for businesses March 1st of this year. We have been reaching out and working with businesses. I have received phone calls and emails from this city council and from staff on businesses that have concerns. And so I'm here tonight just to make sure that you know we have a team here in Downey, BK, who is with me here this evening, who you know, Allison Millette, who you know, who could not be here this evening. She had another event that she needed to be at. But we are here to work with your businesses and your residents. I am happy to provide, which I believe all of you have, my cell phone, my email address, and as you have done thus far, always feel free to forward those businesses to me, and I will make sure that our team works diligently with those businesses to make sure that, number one, they are compliant and that we work with them in the best way we can to get them into the best program we can at the best financial rate that we can. But I am here tonight. I will be here for the rest of the evening. I will be in the lobby. If anybody has any questions, concerns, I will be here for the remainder of the night. Thank you so very much for your time and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Speaker number 4, please come forward. Speaker number 4. Good evening. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Lee Squire, Vietnam era veteran, U.S. Army, death before dishonor. Mayor and City Council, I hereby exercise my First Amendment freedoms of the U.S. Constitution to which I defended. National Vietnam War Veterans Day. To all my Vietnam veteran families, welcome home. We who served in the military, we swore an oath to be the voice of those who never returned. On that behalf, I want to thank the City Council, the City Manager, and City staff. There are 8 new names on the Downey Veterans Memorial. U.S. Army, 4 names, Vietnam. U.S. Marine Corps, there are 3 names, 2 Korea and 1 from Vietnam. U.S. Navy, 1 Vietnam. Thank you for placing these names on the thank you for placing these names for those who gave their lives in Vietnam in time for National Vietnam War Veterans Day. My best friend, U.S. Marine Corps, Siege of Khe Sanh, Purple Heart. God bless America, God bless the nation of Israel, God bless my military and my veterans, and God bless my law enforcement and your families across America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Squire. Speaker number 5, please come forward. Good evening, Mr. Valle. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm a little bit thrown off here. I was going to talk about something else, but something was resonating today. I've heard in today's council, I've heard pedophilia or, internet. Yeah, thank you. I heard homelessness. I heard cars and crosswalks. Something I've been talking about for months. During my unsuccessful campaign, I hear a lot of you doing a lot of great things this week, visiting a lot of places. We've had several people run in November for council seats, but we haven't addressed homelessness. We haven't addressed that issue. We talked about the lighting at Furman Park and in the evening, and I brought up people exposing themselves months ago, and it's still happening. At what point are we going to start addressing that? I get all the love and fun things that we do as a city, and I love that. It brings us together, but there's still some issues, some hard issues that we need to address. Speed bumps, we've been talking about that too, the crosswalks at the cities, right? I'm gonna try and divert back with the limited time that I have. What I want to talk about is, number one is thank you, Mayor, for keeping your promise on hiring more police. I think that's a start in the right direction. As a follow-up, to a few months ago, I believe that the council decided that you're going to talk about making sure that we're going to reassess the police situation, make sure that we have the right number. Now that we've hired more police officers, is that number still enough, or can we do better, or do we have to better allocate our funds to, do we need to increase that number, right? The other piece is, Mayor, you've always kept your promises to me. If we could look into the Suva section in Guatemala, right there, I think we're gonna hire a crossing guard between the periods of 4 and 6 and 7 and 9 a.m. To alleviate the traffic that on the Foster Bridge Road. As we saw, there was an ambulance that couldn't cross because it was just too jam-packed when you took the time to visit with me. Again, I had more, but I appreciate your time.
Speaker number 6, please come forward. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, these things are not addressed. We're worried about dog parks, cameras. If we want to get serious about crime, not a heightened awareness that crime is happening in Downey, why don't we hire 9 more legitimate officers instead of worrying about all this other nonsense? Or worried about the Mexican consulado coming through the neighborhood on wheels, worrying about dual citizenship. Well, if you read the Oath of Allegiance, it surely tells you when you are sworn in as an American citizen, you don't seek dual citizenship. It says, I do solemnly swear that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince or potentate, state or sovereignty, of whom or which I have hereto been a subject or citizen. So in other words, you leave your inferior culture behind to come here to be an American citizen. We don't need to be renaming the streets of countries that are garbage. They're garbage now. Everybody knows it. We're here for America first. But we're not going to get that from a former deputy district attorney for George Gascon. He's going to let the criminals out on the street and make this a criminal's paradise. That's why we have crime everywhere. And it's not going to change. So all the misinformation and disinformation that we get with all these presentations, which is not lawfully city business, by the way, it's not. But we take time and distractions for that instead of doing the real work that needs to be done around here. So we need to stop the lying and the self-aggrandizing and these exercises in pointless platitudes and start doing the right thing around here. Thank you.
Speaker number 7, please come forward.
There are many people who say they are pro-life and they want abortion to be illegal, but they would make an exception in a case of rape. To answer this, I will quote from pro-life speaker Lila Rose. A child conceived in rape doesn't deserve the death penalty, and a survivor of rape is not healed by an abortion. I recommend that you watch The Visual Bible on YouTube.
Thank you. Speaker number 8, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening, council members. I've been a Downey resident for over almost 30 years this year. in District 1. And I love this city and I love that area. But however, as I've been here for the past 30 years, I have seen that area deteriorating, especially the roads. Imperial Highway between Lakewood and Woodruff is terrible. The constant large trucks passing through is deteriorating the streets, causing our homes on Imperial side residential area to start shaking in the evenings. Sometimes it rattles so hard that I don't even know if it's an earthquake, but it's just trucks passing through. And as time goes by, the roads are just getting worse and worse. So I want to know when we're going to have that Imperial Highway fixed. I know that we have been working on the highways, on the streets in the city, but it seems like that area seems to get ignored. And you know, we do deserve to have good streets, especially in that area. The second thing is loitering. We've been having a lot of loitering in my community. We have had a lot of people that are parking on our side service roads that do not live in that area. And we have called and we've even mailed the police department. They go and they check and then they remove them. Then 30 minutes later, they come back. And they stay there for hours and hours, watching us, looking to see who's coming and going, but nothing seems to get done. They just show up, tell them to leave, but nothing is getting resolved. I would like to have some loitering posted in that particular area. No loitering. You know, we follow the laws and ordinances in our city. Why can't our non-residents do the same? If we do not enforce them for non-residents, why are residents are asked to follow these rules? So if that can be looked into, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Can I just ask you, what general area? I heard Imperial
It's on
Highway.
Imperial Highway between Dunrobin and Woodruff.
So my mother's house is on Izetta.
I live on Eastbrook.
I have walked District 1, and tonight on the agenda, we have the Woodruff beautification renovation, because I agree with you. The area has been neglected.
Yes.
For over 30 years.
Yes.
I've seen it. I'm
And
with
I
you.
love that area, and it was beautiful,
Yes.
and it's still nice.
We're
It's
going to
just
work on
getting
it.
bad.
If you want to stay tonight, listen to what we're going to do, starting with Woodruff.
I would
Because
appreciate
Imperial
that.
and Woodruff is horrible.
Yes, it is.
I'm with you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 9, please come forward. Good evening. Thank you for coming today.
Hi.
Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, esteemed members of the council. I came today in support of this nice family here because my daughter does go to Unsworth. And for years now, we have been trying for crossing guard, crosswalk, anything, a stop sign. And in the last year, 3 kids have been hit by cars, just in that 1 block radius alone. And it's only going to get worse because they're building additional classrooms to accommodate the additional students, which will lead to additional parents driving their kids and dropping them off, which leads to potential accidents as well. And another major issue about it is the huge Chick-fil-A being built on Telegraph. I believe it's going to be the largest Chick-fil-A in the state of California. It's going to encompass what was previously 2 restaurants of Frantone's and Chris's Burgers. And so, I mean, we all know how busy Chick-fil-A can get. And for some reason, the planner or the architect has it where it's the drive-throughs exiting on Serapis, which is a side residential street. And from there, the only way to get out of the residential area is to make a left on Cedar Tree where there's no stop sign, and then drive 3 blocks over, no stop signs, over to Passons, where finally they'll encounter a stop sign where they can make a left to get back onto Telegraph. So I think it's very necessary with all that's going on and the additional Chick-fil-A being built there. I mean, when you asked when was the busiest time, Chick-fil-A is open from 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. And that's thousands of cars now going Serapis down to Cedar Tree. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We
Thank you.
appreciate you coming in. Speaker number 10.
Hi.
Hi, whenever you're ready, sir.
I just want to talk to 2 points. First point will be the dog park. I personally believe that creating a new dog park for $350,000 is a little bit too expensive. I recommend to repair the dog park we currently have, or you're just using a quarter of it. And also too, like for the money used for the dog park, I think we could create new programs, such as like funded babysitters for single working parents. For example, annual hourly rate in Los Angeles is going for 20 to 26 for an average of 200 daily and 1,000 weekly, which is 48,000 annually for single working parents, or even just parents in general. Or another program that I would highly recommend is parenting outing. Creating once a month on a Friday from 7 to 9, a parent would drop off their kid in a recreational center to allow parents to have an intimate date with each other. I know being a parent is really hard to go out because you have to take care of your kids. So I was just more recommendation for that. The second is the lack of lighting in District 3. For example, 8 o'clock was last week. I went running on Old River School in front of the elementary. I saw a parked car, and within the parked car, I saw a couple doing crack. And this is the second time. So it's just more of a concern to have more police activity there because it sucks to see the increase of the homelessness, increase of illegal substance, especially even around my house. There's like needles in the park area, and then it's kind of sad to see. And I want Downey to be great again. So that's my time.
Which park is that?
Crawford.
Crawford Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 11, please come forward.
Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Bradley and staff, good evening. Happy Easter to all of you, first of all. I'd like to briefly talk about what I consider to be the state of California's fiasco financially, and that has to do with the Rapid Rail project that's been in effect since the year 2006, where the aim of that program is to have a high-speed bullet train run from Los Angeles to San Francisco in less than 3 hours. That was incorporated in the year 2006 with a budget projected to be about $30 billion with a B, and that was supposed to be finished in the year 2020. Now, I'm sure you can imagine what I'm going to say now. After review, which it has analyzed every year through this committee, it's been now established that the amount of money to complete the project is going to cost an additional $100 billion with a B, $100 billion of our money, and it's supposed to be the new tentative date of completion is supposed to be in the year 2035. To me, that's a complete waste of our money. The state has a deficit of roughly $75 billion with a B, and yet they're projecting to complete this project with another $100 billion. What I would suggest, if you agree with the program as it is, fine. If you disagree with what's happening, contact your state legislators. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 12, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
council members. My name is Jason Cherpashevsky. I'm with the Kiwanis Club of Downey. We have been serving the community for 100 years. About a week and a half ago, we had a casino night fundraiser where we raised over $16,000 for youth service leadership programs in our community. I would name you all individually since each one of you individually supported our event, but I don't want to be in violation of the rules of decorum. So know that I am thinking of you as individuals at this moment. I just want to thank you on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Downey and all of the student leaders who benefit from the funds raised the other night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I'm a little partial, but I think the Downey Kiwanis is the best club in Downey. Speaker number 13. And we're lucky to have two of them. Speaker number 13, good evening.
Good evening, Mr.
Our
Mayor.
new planning commissioner.
I hope I do you right. I just want to come up here. I don't have anything negative to say. I normally never do. Again, this weekend is my 10th anniversary that I dropped dead in my house, and the Downey Fire Department brought me back to have me serve and do whatever I had to do. I was able to celebrate my 58th birthday yesterday. Yep. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to serve Downey. We got a good police chief. We got a good fire chief. It's nice to see everybody in concurrence of friendships in public. I don't know what they are privately, but I don't care. I just am thankful. I wish that, I hope I do a good job. I don't know what the heck I got myself into, to be honest. But I'm grateful. And like I said, I'm grateful to live in Downey. I care about Downey. That's all I care about. I'm going to retire in 2 years from Edison after 35 years. I don't care about Edison. I'm done with, it's just another chapter. I'm focusing my time in retirement on Downey, and I'm grateful, and I just thank you. I hope I don't let you down. I hope I don't disappoint you or whatever. I'm old, and I didn't shave today because I'm preparing to be Santa in December for my grandson. So I'm grateful, and if you could probably work on some streetlights on my street, I would be grateful too, because we don't have any, and it's dark. And my 88-year-old neighbor came down here, but she didn't have the courage to ask. And I don't know what it takes. I know what it costs from Edison because I replace them all the time when people hit them. But I don't know how to get streetlights on Elmcroft. But I'd be grateful, just one. I'm not greedy. And I have 28 seconds so I can stand here and just say, hey. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You guys, God bless all of you. I think you're doing a great job. Like I said, I'm grateful. Thank you for doing what you do, all of you, from all the little bottom feeders all the way to the top kings. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more speakers, but we've had the issue of streetlights come up a couple times. As you know, that's one of the letters in the Trujillo Brass Plan. B is for broadband, R is for residential street, A is for alleys, S for sidewalks, and the last S, streetlights. I've been in communication with our city manager on streetlights. I want to know, when are we going to get more streetlights? Because we really haven't added any the last 3 years I've been here. So Mr. Bradley, will you address the issue at this time?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a goal that's been put forward by the City Council for staff to work on this year, a streetlight installation program, which would allow for certain stretches of neighborhoods that don't have them and that like to install them to have a process they can go through to get streetlights in their community. We will be reporting on that next month, the creation of that program and the process to do so. So that program is coming.
Excellent. So it's coming. Feel free to email any one of us to follow up on that if you want more attention on how to get a streetlight, okay? Speaker number 14, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Beltran. I am here, first and foremost, to everyone here, Ramadan Mubarak. I am here today because human life is sacred, and there is a genocide that is ongoing, that is being committed by our U.S. government and the Israeli government against the indigenous Palestinian people in Gaza. That's been going on for nearly 6 months now. I want to thank so many allies in our Jewish community, if not now, in Jewish Voices for Peace. for leading a lot of this movement towards a free Palestine. I also want to thank the cities in Southeast LA of Cudahy, Long Beach, Bell Gardens, Montebello, Alhambra, that just passed a ceasefire resolution. Thank you so much. I wish our city council was not choosing to be silent and instead passed a ceasefire resolution. That would be amazing to show solidarity with Palestinians, solidarity with humanity. Almost 40,000 confirmed to have been murdered, 136 journalists, over 100 UN workers. I stopped by the DC office of our congressman to urge him to make sure that there's UNRWA funding. He actually voted for a bill that removes UNRWA funding and continues to provide another $3 billion to Israel to continue this genocide. It is absolutely wrong. What can we say here? This is just basic humanity. That's all we're asking. Just be human. I think we're human here, right? These are our fellow humans. Can we say something? Can we pass a ceasefire resolution, a permanent ceasefire resolution? Free Palestine.
Thank you. Speaker number 15, please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening. Ooh, let me fix this, kind of short. Okay, so I wanted to echo on the last speaker. I want the city to agendize the ceasefire resolution. I think it's important. I've lived in this city for almost 3 decades now as a Moroccan and Palestinian woman. I think that it would be the bare minimum for me to feel some kind of representation. My other comment is I really hope that this city does not repeal the minimum wage ordinance for healthcare workers. I feel like they work really hard and they worked, especially Kaiser, as someone who's chronically ill and who's always at Kaiser, those people really, really like bust their, you know what, sorry. And I just feel like they should be getting the pay that they deserve. And so I think it's just the human thing to let those people who worked with us during a global pandemic to get fair pay. And that's the end of my comment.
Yeah. On that issue of the minimum wage, I'm going to ask the city managers to address that. I'm sorry, did you want to?
No, I came back to listen because I can't.
Yeah. You're going to hear that we're being asked to repeal it, and he'll explain to you. It's sort of like a cleanup because you're going to get what you want. The state voted. So even if we wanted a lower wage, the state has voted for the minimum. So Roger, you want to explain?
No, that's correct, Mayor. The state has already preempted us by putting its own law in place, and therefore we're required by state law to bring ourselves in compliance with what the state's doing. So we're just clearing the books off, and the state's proceeding with its minimum wage law for those people. So no impact.
And I think it was the full 25 that the CIU was
I believe
requesting.
it was 23.
So it's state law.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And I believe that's our last speaker, Madam City Clerk. Oh, Javier, did you want to speak?
It's my first time.
So
it's
usually,
been a while that I was going.
welcome. We usually ask that you get a card. So next time you come, it's okay, you get a card. But it's your turn, Javier. You don't need to get a card tonight. Next time. And you have 2 minutes, Javier. Are you ready?
Yeah, it's my first time because I'm always busy.
Let's do it.
So like
2 minutes on the clock. Please start the clock. Javier, address the city council. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for keeping me posted, Mario. Technically, I'm in District 1, off of a Gardendale and Lakewood, off of a Handwell, and passing Handwell and towards Belcher behind the cemetery. We still haven't got any lights. That's number 1. And then number 2, on Alameda, at the corner, there's like a Islamic church on the left. Every time I go straight, dropping off my mother for her necessities, I'm like a passenger, but technically when I'm next to somebody, like the driver, for example, I have to like zigzag. I'm like going like this way to get to the other side. I'm like, but it reminded me about fixing the sideways. I'm like, why don't I discuss it tonight when I'm going to the city council? Because I might have to do it again if I'm lucky enough on Thursday to zigzag to, because usually I have to like change lanes from the right to the left. I'm like on Alameda, passing La Coco on that area. But I think it's on the left on the sides, on the cement on Alameda, I think. So pretty much, yeah, I think it's a roadway that needs like repairing on where the church is on Alameda, in front of the old historic by the Downey Promenade. So pretty much, I think that side, because I can feel the bumps when I'm zigzagging, making a right. So I'm like. Okay.
Thank you, Javier. We appreciate you coming in. Okay, seeing no other speakers, is there a motion and a second to close public comment?
Moved.
Second.
So ordered by the mayor. Now's the time for consent calendar items. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item?
Yes, I need to recuse myself from item number 8 due to, 7 is item number 7, due to my current employer in healthcare.
Okay. I need to abstain from item number 5, the approval of the license plate reader, because I own property in the downtown Downey. Anyone else?
I'd like to pull item number 9 for further discussion.
Item number 9 for discussion, okay. Any other items that anyone wishes to pull?
I'm not going to pull item 6, but just a comment on item 6.1 that I made sure that I checked with staff that there was not a conflict with Tierra West Advisors and City Planning Commissioner Morales, who is a board director on that form, because he's not doing any work, so we'll be fine with that one.
Okay. Any other comments, questions before we take a vote? Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with the 2 abstentions, one by former Mayor Fermetta, mine, and we're pulling item number 9. A motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
The consent calendar is approved with Councilmember Fermetta abstaining from item number 7 and Mayor Trujillo abstaining from item number 5, and Mayor Pro Tem Sosa pulling item number 9 for separate discussion.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sosa, item number 9.
Yeah, I pulled item number 9 because I like to have further discussion on that. I'm trying to understand the justification for increasing the sponsorship from the silver level from $1,100 to the gold level of $5,000. The Children's Guidance Group is doing a tremendous job and benefit for our community. And we want to support them, which is why we voted for the silver level sponsorship initially, but it's a steep, it's a significant increase for a sponsorship level like that. I'm just trying to understand the justification for that and like to have some dialogue on that.
I'll start. I asked for the item to be pulled because when I looked at the services that are provided in the areas of mental health treatment and services to families with children, I found that there were 3 major providers, at least with the information I have about the groups, the nonprofits that service Downey. They are the Whole Child, LA CARA, and the Community Family Guidance Center. In reviewing the financial allocations that we've made to those 3 profits, those 3 nonprofits, and maybe the staff could tell me exactly, I believe that the Whole Child is getting from CBG funds a certain allocation, LA CARA's getting a certain allocation, but the Community Families Guidance Center, I'm not sure how much they got, but I didn't see them on there. And the sponsorship that we had done was $1,000. And based on, I don't have the number of residents they serve, in speaking with staff at the Community Family Guidance Center, they do see Downey as one of the primary cities that they serve. So I just thought that it was not enough. And seeing that 84 cents of every dollar that they fundraise goes directly to therapy, to direct services, I thought it would be a good investment. So I did ask for the reconsideration.
If I may add, and thank you for that, it's true. The Family Guidance Center, the majority of their clients happen to be from Downey. On average, I do have the numbers. They serve 320 children from Downey every year, and that is approximately 5,500 hours of therapy delivered to Downey residents. And again, we are talking about a very steep increase in the number of therapy and the number of cases of children needing therapy stemming from post-COVID related trauma. And to Mario's point, the mayor's point, I do believe that if out of every dollar, 84 cents goes to therapy and goes to the treatment. I've had an opportunity in the past to tour the center and to speak to the staff, and I really do believe that is money well spent, that it's beneficial to the children and to the families that need the care. Again, mental health, particularly at this point in time, post-COVID for our children, is critical.
Can I ask if I did research last month because we were doing the silver sponsorship and I had never heard of them before, even reached out to the school if we're using them. Yes, we are. But does our school district support them? Does there a contribution or a sponsorship from the school district? Because this service and organization is great. Yes, we do need it. The children need it. But they're not exclusive to Downey, and we were contributing to maybe a few legacy clubs, but not other organizations, nonprofit. I just don't feel at this time such a large expenditure as that. Being on the budget subcommittee, we want to watch if we have a deficit because we have overtime, we have other expenses occurring. It's just a mid-year review. Again, I like to stay fiscally prudent. We are sponsoring them. We're at a silver level. We hadn't done that in the past. It's rather new and buying a full table as well. That's why at this time, I would choose not to do so and keep our level and our membership right now until we really feel confident of where we are with our budget. We have hiring to do, overtime and staffing, and I think that it's something that can be shared maybe with the school district. Perhaps they are a resource or an outlet to help support them even more, since they are the ones that are benefiting with the program as well. And again, keep our city business functioning and running the city and being independent here just for Downey businesses and services, rather.
I do have a question on staff. This sponsorship, the previous sponsorship, on average, what do we give these organizations?
What do we give these types of groups on average?
So this is not the first table sponsorship we have done, correct?
Correct.
And an average, do we do only silver? Do we do?
I don't know. We have to go back and look. We don't have that information right now. Yeah. We could look at it though.
I think in prior years, maybe 5 years ago, it wasn't even done, perhaps. Individuals might have attended and paid for them out of their own pocket. That's how you can support individually, too, and make donations individually.
Just of note, they are located in Downey, the Community Family Guidance Center. They're located in Downey, and I believe this year they seem to be Downey-centric. They're honoring Martha Soldetani, I believe, which is a former Downey Unified School District board member. They do have an MOU with Downey Unified School District, but I don't know how much of anything DUSD provides. With that said, does anyone have a motion?
Yeah, I just want to add, the children's, and thank you for your comments, guys, but the Children's Family Guidance Center does tremendous work in our community. But when we see stuff like this, an increase, we have to have these discussions. You know what I mean? We have to have this dialogue and to get an understanding of what we're looking at and what we're trying to sponsor. And we're going to have differences in opinion, but this dialogue is healthy. But when we have a significant increase like that at that level, dialogue is warranted. So,
Well, absolutely, I don't disagree. However, I do believe that particularly when it comes to mental health and the services they provide to children and families, we do know that COVID and those lockdowns and the virtual meetings or the virtual classes, and especially children in the foster care system, really did suffer an increase, tenfold in damage. And so now we're trying to, from a healthcare perspective, we're trying to recoup what was lost in terms of attention and care for these kids. And it is a partnership between the school district and the city. I don't think 5,000 is going to break the bank, but I do believe that in order to have healthy communities, we also need to be able to invest in organizations that are helping us invest in our children, in their mental health, and as well as their families, because not only do they focus on the children, but they also provide additional resources for the guardians and the parents. And with that said, again, I agree. We always need to be fiscally prudent, but I in this particular case, I will make a motion to support this ask.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a vote. Please vote on the motion. Thank you.
The motion is approved with Mayor Pro Tem Sosa and Councilmember Pemberton voting no.
There are two administrative reports this evening. Number 10, an update on the Woodruff Avenue beautification plan. That the City Council, number 1, discuss the work underway and completed to date on the plan, and 2, provide direction to staff regarding any additional steps with respect to the Woodruff Avenue beautification plan. City Manager Bradley, is there a staff report for item number 10?
Yes, Mayor, our Public Works Director will provide the report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. If you bear with me 1 second while I try to get the presentation set up. Okay, thank you. Tonight I'm providing an update on the Woodruff Avenue beautification plan. Thank you. A little background on Woodruff Avenue. This is a 1.5 mile arterial road, which is shown in red here on the map. It's bound by Foster Road to the south, that's the southern limit, as well as Firestone Boulevard to the northern limit. Zoning through this area, south of Imperial is, and I've overlaid our zoning map on top of Woodruff corridor here. South of Imperial, it's predominantly commercial as well as residential. As we move north of Imperial, the uses are predominantly just a little bit of commercial, with the remainder and then the majority of it being manufacturing. Our beautification plan was adopted by our City Council on July 25th, 2023, and focused on 4 key areas: improving our pavement, focusing on parkway median landscaping, looking at the oversized vehicle parking issues on Woodruff, in particular north of Washburn, as well as a number of code enforcement issues. Our paving is going to be broken up into 2 phases. Looking at phase 1, is Firestone Boulevard to Washburn Road. This is slated to start in construction June and continue through September. Our phase 2 portion is Washburn Road to Foster Road and will be overlapping slightly going from August to December. We're looking at reconstructing our pavement, which is over 20 years since its last treatment. And typically our pavement rehabilitation projects include concrete improvements, our sidewalks, curb and gutter, driveways, and curb ramps, as well as striping and pavement marking. This project also includes raised center medians that would be located to the south of Imperial Highway. Our parkway and median landscaping focuses on lack of vegetation throughout the entire corridor. These photos here show the condition of our islands, which some of them are asphalt filled. We have empty tree wells, and we have parkways with sparse vegetation. Some work has been started already. Staff is working on that sparsely vegetated area between Belcher and Angell Street. We completed irrigation repairs back in January, and planting actually began yesterday. And we believe that we'll be completing planting of that entire stretch by early April, and probably the end of next week. Parkway median landscaping is also part of the Phase 2 project. As I was saying before, we have raised center medians that are going to be installed south of Imperial Highway down to Foster Road. Once those medians are installed, this will also include the installation of a Downey monument sign like we see in other major corridors in the city. And we anticipate this work to be completed, the entire project to be completed by December 2024. Additional issues that the beautification plan is focused on, as I mentioned before, are the oversized vehicles. In March 14th, 2023, City Council adopted an oversized vehicle ordinance. Signage was posted at entrances to town and on Woodruff Avenue. And staff from our police department and our code enforcement have worked very closely together and worked very hard over several months to cite and remove the vehicles. The removal of the vehicles has enabled our street sweeper to actually get in there and start clearing debris that was building up behind the wheels of the RV vehicles, as the buildup of debris photo shows there. And just looking at some of the before and after, that photo that I showed you before in the top left hand, showing the buildup of those parking of those oversized vehicles. The picture in the center there was actually taken by staff this afternoon, showing that we no longer are observing any sort of oversized vehicles parked along Woodruff, especially north of Washburn, which was the key area. And then the photos to the right show the work that's been done where our street sweepers can actually get in and sweep the curbs now. Our code enforcement has been working extremely hard over the last several months, issuing 15 notices of violations to businesses and have achieved compliance with 7 of them. Staff is going back and re-inspecting the other sites and working with those owners to achieve compliance. These typical violations include maintenance related to painting and debris, as well as signage. And these photos here show exterior painting that's needed, as well as excessive signage in the middle photo, and inoperable vehicle at another location. And here are the before and after photos showing the work of our code enforcement going out there to make sure that the painting, the signage has been addressed, as well as the removal of the inoperable vehicle. Another item that was addressed as part of the Woodruff beautification plan was starting to take a look at programs that we can offer for planting in areas where there's chain link fencing. Chain link fencing is not currently permitted under the Downey Municipal Code, but older properties that have pre-existing chain link fencing are considered legal and non-conforming. There are three residential properties on Woodruff that fall into this category. And one of the ways that we've looked at starting to offer some services is through the Team Up to Clean Up program that's going to be held on Saturday, April 13th, 2024. And properties on Woodruff Avenue would be able to participate in this program, as well as other properties that are in the vicinity of the Woodruff area that have chain link fencing. And the idea is we would provide the plants for free, and we would have volunteers from our Keep Downey Beautiful program that would be able to work on those properties to install the plants that will help mask and help cover the chain link fencing. A recap of our plan efforts to date. As I was saying before, our paving is going to be broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 going from June to September, and phase 2 going from August to December. Our parkway median and landscaping is going to be part of phase 2, but we've also started some work this week to plant between Belcher Street and Angel Street. Our oversized vehicle parking, we've been very successful through the efforts of our police department and code enforcement in citing removing those vehicles. They're no longer observed, and they have not been observed since January 2024. Our street sweeping efforts have resumed and have been successful in starting to remove that debris buildup that's happening and starting to clear those gutters. Code enforcement has been working actively citing the business owners for maintenance and signage violations, and as I mentioned, we have the chain link fencing properties that can participate in the Team Up to Cleanup event on April 13th, 2024. Funding for the program, the majority of the costs are related to the paving, and we have all of these efforts are already funded. Total of $3.1 million are going to be spent on the entire Woodruff Avenue beautification plan. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have tonight.
I have a question. I've grown up in this area from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and it's a time travel. I go back when I have to do business in that area, and it hasn't changed. And I'm glad that it has. I used to walk to school on Imperial Highway, make a left on Woodruff to go to Woodruff Junior High, which is now the adult school. So I'm glad to see that it does need a facelift, especially down Woodruff. And that used to be McCoy's grocery store on Foster and Woodruff, if anybody remember McCoy's. Now it's off a warehouse. My comment is, though, I'd like to take a look at a part of Woodruff on the east side between Washburn and the Downey Adult School. So for a couple years, people have reached out, how do we put a sidewalk there? There's an elevated parking area on one of the businesses, and you may know it. You start to walk with a sidewalk, then you have to walk into the street. And consumers from the ARC usually walk from Washburn, maybe to the Downey Adult School, and then they are having to be led into the street or somewhere else. There's a telephone pole in the way. You'll take a look and see. It's a very high raised parking area from the rest of the street. I don't know if that can be graded or you can put a sidewalk there so you can continue that walk, which is northbound on Woodruff going to Washburn. So maybe take a look at that area and address it so there's a safety concern.
Thank you.
We'd be happy to look at that. I'm not sure how it would fit into the budget, but if that's the will of the council, we'd be happy to take a look and evaluate it and see how to fit in.
Yes. I also wanted to comment that it's great that we're doing this because we have a high school there. And we know the reputation that Columbus High School has, right? That it's our continuation high school. But that doesn't mean that these kids don't deserve to go to school in a nice neighborhood, just like the kids in Downey High and Paramount and Warren High. So I'm glad that we're finally addressing Woodruff. I agree with Councilwoman Pemberton. My first house was in that area, and when I asked Kimmery Day, my real estate agent at the time, I said, where's the worst part? She took me to the corner of Woodruff and Foster Road. And it just got worse. It was looking like Tijuana. It was embarrassing. So I'm so glad we're finally going to address Woodruff Avenue, and I'm so glad Councilwoman Pemberton knows the historical context and can validate that for some reason the city never saw it fit to address that area. That area is the entry point from our neighbors in Bellflower and Norwalk, and we should be looking at these entry points. And so and first impressions are very important. So I'm so glad we're addressing that. Thank you, Roger. I know that we walked that area and I showed you everything that I've seen for the last 3 decades. So thank you for bringing this to us. I really appreciate all this work.
I also wanted to say thank you to staff. I know that area is needed of a lot of work. And so I echo the same sentiments as my council colleagues. I'm pretty happy that we're getting a monument sign saying welcome to Downey. Just to confirm, it's going to be the same one like in Imperial and the other monument sign. So
Absolutely, it'll be consistent with our other ones.
okay, perfect. I would prefer to see more greenery than dirt. My personal opinion, and see if we can. I know that if we could go back to a slide to. Yeah, so that go back to the other slide.
I'm sorry, forward.
That one right there.
Yes.
This is already started.
This work started this week, yes, yeah. And there's actually more plants going in. This was just like the work that was done yesterday, so there's more plants being installed, but we had to fix all the irrigation through there too, so that the plants wouldn't die after planting them.
And plants start out small, so
Small.
they do grow a little bit, fill out.
Takes a little while.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to be patient.
Yes.
Okay, I'll let my residents know about that.
I assure you, this will fill in. Yes.
Fill it. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
Discount on that.
Woodruff is such a large street that it's good to hear that there's going to be center medians like we did in Paramount, right? I really think that's going to beautify the area and add the greenery.
More value and beautify that
foliage
whole
in
area.
the center.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out the planned center medians in those parkways also include some trees as well, so it won't just be the low-lying shrubs. There'll be trees as part of that plan as well.
Excellent. Can we get a palm tree behind the monument sign? I thought I'd ask. Palm trees are so Miami, right? And I love the palm trees in Downey. Anyways, I thought there should be a palm tree behind every monument sign. And it's great to see that we're embracing the south side, right? Because we don't see a lot of these monument signs around Foster. And we really need to embrace the south side. It's one Downey. So thank you for addressing this. All right. Anything else on this administrative report, Council? All right, moving on. I'll entertain a motion and a second.
A motion to approve.
To receive?
To
Is that what I'm doing? All right.
To receive.
I'll second the receipt.
Thank you.
Yes, you don't need a
You don't really need it. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Please vote. You're good? You don't need it? Okay. All right, moving on to item number 11, City of Downey, 2021 to 2029, 8 years, Housing Element Implementation Plan and Overview. That the City Council receive and file the report outlining the 2021 to 2029 Housing Element Implementation Plan. City Manager Bradley, is there a staff report on item number 11?
Yes, Mayor, we have our Community Development Director here to provide the report. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm pleased today to present to you the overview of the Housing Element Implementation Plan, and it's a team effort. Tonight I have our consultant project manager joining me. But just as a brief introduction, in February of this month, we provided the Planning Commission with a similar presentation, a little bit longer than what you hear tonight. It provides you an overview of the various activities that encompass the housing element implementation, which you'll hear more about tonight, a general plan update, zoning text amendments, residential overlay zones, and this is all in an effort of meeting the city's regional housing needs assessment unit count. And so with that, I will introduce the project manager, Jose Rodriguez with MIG Consulting, and he will be presenting tonight's PowerPoint. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jose Rodriguez, and I am a Senior Project Manager with MIG, and I'm assisting the city with the Housing Element Project Implementation Project. Real briefly, I'm just going to go over the agenda for my presentation. I'm going to provide an overview of the project. I'm going to talk about the housing element and housing element context and what this project, and why we're doing this project. And then there's a series of other projects that are kind of coming off of the housing element. There's a land use element and map update, targeted zoning amendment and zoning map update. And then I'm gonna talk about objective design standards and what those are. And then a new element for the general plan is the environmental justice element, and that'll be prepared as a new element. I'm gonna talk about the community engagement program for this project, and then allow any questions or comments from the City Council. All right. So a project overview. Part of this project is let me back up. This is essentially the second phase of the housing element. The first phase of the housing element was getting the housing element prepared, certified by the state of California. The second part is actually implementing the housing element. In the housing element, there's various programs that say what the city of Downey has to do. And so if you go to the back of the housing element, it says you got to do this, this, and that. That includes updating the land use element and the map itself. And again, this is for consistency, to make sure it's consistent with the housing element. amending the zoning code, and also, again, to be consistent with the housing element and what was in the housing element implementation program. There's updating the zoning map. Again, part of the key words that I'm using is consistency. We want to make sure the regulatory tools that Downey is using is consistent from the housing element, the land use element, zoning, all needs to be consistent. I'm going to go through and talk just briefly about objective design standards, what those are and what they do. And then lastly, I want to talk about the brand new, or we'll be preparing a brand new environmental justice element. All right, so to provide some context, let me talk about the housing element. And this is one of the required elements to the city's general plan. And it is the only element that needs to be certified by the state of California, specifically the Department of Housing and Community Development, which I'll refer to as HCD. HCD reviewed the housing element and was certified. But essentially, what the housing element does is make sure that the city is developing, preserving an adequate supply of housing for all needs and economic segments of the community. So the housing element went through the Planning Commission, was adopted by the Planning Commission several years ago. It came before this body on October 11th in 2022, was adopted. And then shortly thereafter, it was certified by the state of California, by the HCD department. So the state has certified the housing element. And if you're familiar with all the other cities, there's still probably more than a handful of cities that still have not received certification. So Downey was one that did receive certification. One of the key components to the housing element is the regional housing needs allocation. And just essentially what that is every city received a number of housing units that the city has to accommodate through their zoning, their land use, their regulatory tools. So there's a set number. And if you guys remember the housing element, if you were part of the housing element adoption, that number for the city of Downey was about 6,500 units. The entire SCAG region, which includes 6 county areas, was about 1.3 million housing. So the city of Downey got 6,500 units. And those 6,500 units are categorized by different income levels. There's the low and very low income levels and moderate and above moderate. So it's all categorized by those different income categories. And it all adds up to 6,500. The key thing about that 6,500 is that it's not a construction obligation for the city. You don't have to build any of those units. It's market driven. Property owners, developers, they're responsible for building those units. What the city is responsible for is ensuring your land use and zoning could accommodate those number of units. So that's where this comes into play. And the state, based off the housing element, is going to be looking, and they're looking at all the cities to see who's implementing their housing element, because they're keeping track of those cities that are and are not. So how is the city of Downey going to accommodate the RENA number? There's a couple of approaches that's spelled out in the housing element clearly. One includes counting land that you have available today without making any zoning changes. You can count number of units towards that 6,500. You could also count other types of housing units, such as accessory dwelling units. You can count those. But there wasn't enough. So the housing element identified rezoning that had to be done to be able to accommodate the entire 6,500. So housing elements calls out 2 parts. So as I mentioned, the first one is we're able to get that number down by counting approved projects, those that were, or even projects that were proposed at that time, starting in 2021. As we move to 2029, the 8 years, the city can still start counting. The clock started ticking in the middle of 2021. The second way to reduce that number down that was spelled out in the housing element is projecting future accessory dwelling units. I think we were able to count almost 500 plus accessory dwelling units to cross off against the 6,500. And the way that was done was we had to look at the track record of what Downey was approving between a 3-year period, projected out over that 8 years, and I think it was around 500 dwelling units that we can knock off the 6,500. And then there are definitely sites that, with the existing zoning in place, we're able to count some numbers. Those included vacant sites, sites that are underutilized that allow for housing today. The Downey specific plan that was approved a few years ago, a little more than a few years ago, allows for housing. We can count those numbers down. And then there's another specific plan further south that had another 600 units, and we can take those off the 6,500 units. However, we were probably still short. No, I shouldn't say probably. The housing element clearly identifies that number. So there's rezoning that has to be done. And so to count the rest of those units, this is the second part of the strategy, and this is the main emphasis of this particular project, is we're looking to increase densities in only the high density residential areas. That's spelled out clearly in the housing element. Creating additional mixed use areas in the general plan and zoning, and then adding residential opportunity areas in 2 types of commercial areas. Excuse me. Commercial centers, which include some shopping centers that currently don't allow housing, and there are potentially opportunities to add housing to commercial shopping centers. And then commercial corridors, adding overlays or including that mixed use in those corridors. The overlay, keep in mind, keeps the base as commercial, but the overlay allows additional housing. So it's flexible for property owner. They can still build commercial, but then they have flexibility to add housing units. And we needed that extra space because there was no other locations, again, to meet that 6,500 unit number. We had to, at that time when the housing element was developed, to look for locations because the state specifically looked at all of the sites to make sure that those sites could accommodate those housing units. And they really look at each particular property, particularly for the low and the very low income sites. So this map is in the housing element, and it clearly identifies the different sites that we identified and that the state looked at. We actually put all those sites in an Excel file and have to, using a HCD template, give those sites so that they can review it, and the state has a database of all those particular sites. So this particular project, the next tasks of this project show how we change land use zoning, again, to accommodate those units. So the first major change that we're making is to the land use element of the general plan. So again, one of the elements to your general plan, and really what the land use element does is looks at the physical aspects of property, particularly land uses that are allowed, the physical development. What we're going to be doing is updating the text of the land use element. It's actually a little bit outdated, so we'll get to revise the entire element. And then we'll also update the land use map. And the land use map, what we want to do is make sure that those land uses, we'll be creating new land use categories so that we're meeting those new categories that we've identified in the housing element to show that the densities and the land uses, whether it's mixed use or higher residential densities, can accommodate those uses. So we'll be updating the land use map and the text and the policies. And again, to iterate, we're primarily making those key changes to address the housing element. So the land use element is your general plan, kind of the higher level. The zoning now is more of your implementation tool. The zoning, setbacks, heights of building, all that is spelled out on your zoning code. So we will be looking at creating new zone districts, overlay districts, create brand new districts with new setback standards on making sure that we meet those housing units. We're also going to be updating the zoning map for consistency with the land use map and the housing element. And then we're going to add an objective design standards section to your zoning code. So it's actually a zoning code section, and I'll go into detail on that in a moment. Specific zoning code revisions that we'll be making, as I mentioned earlier, is an overlay zone, particularly along the corridors. We're increasing the residential densities in the R3 zone, currently allowed from 18 to 20 or 24 units. We're going up to 40 dwelling units per acre. And again, new zones for that allow residential development. That 30 dwelling units per acre is important because that's the minimum threshold for affordable housing. Remember that different categories of lower and very low, those sites have to be at densities with a minimum of 30 dwelling units per acre by state law. So that's why some of the densities are increasing. So we make sure that we're meeting those lower income categories of the RENA numbers. In addition to other changes, we're also making a lot of state law requirements. Over the past, I would say, 5 years, the state has made a lot of housing law changes. And we want to make sure that we're updating the zoning code to reflect current state law. And that includes revising the emergency shelter requirements, supportive housing, group home requirements that are spelled out in the zoning code. All those will be updated as well. And then one of the key things that the housing element implementation really looks at, and what HCD, as we prepared many housing elements throughout California, what the state is trying to do is make sure that there's no constraints identified in the zoning code that prohibit or make it difficult to build housing in Downey, and I'm going to say in a lot of other cities. So we're going to look at different. We're going to look at the parking requirements, the heights, the standards. HCD has already kind of, through their housing element, has identified specific areas to look at to make sure that there's no constraints. Doesn't mean you can't still have standards. You can still definitely have standards. They just want to make sure that there's no overbearing constraints that's making it costly to build housing in Downey. And as I mentioned, we will be updating the zoning map again for consistency with the land use and the housing element. All right, so let's talk about the objective design standards. And this will also be a section in the zoning code. And if some of you may remember, there are this is meant for multifamily design. And what every city in California now and the county now have to do is prepare objective design standards for multifamily development. So many of you may be familiar with design guidelines. I think Downey has currently single-family design guidelines, and they provide shoulds. You should have this, you should have this on the design of structures. Well, the state wants to remove some of the shoulds and put shalls and make it really clear through standards what architects, applicants need to provide to the design of their building so that it's clear, so that it's not nebulous, so that there's clear, what the state is looking for is measurable standards for the design of multifamily, to make it a little bit, I wouldn't say easier, but that the developers understand what measures are needed for the design of buildings. So we'll create a whole new set of objective design standards using graphics. I'll have some show some pictures, some examples of graphics, just to make it really clear what the standards are. And really the goal of the objective design standards is to increase the quality, the look, the aesthetic appeal of the design standards, but also make sure that it reflects the Downey architectural styles and maybe a little bit of the historic context as well. So we'll create new zoning standards. And again, this also, not only does it address multifamily, it also addresses mixed use development, particularly if more than 75% of the mixed use is housing, multifamily housing. The objective design standards apply. The state has identified a set of criteria to make sure to address. We will be having public engagement. We want to listen to the residents, property owners, developers, architects, and then identify priorities. What is the superior design and what standards we need to address in Downey? Any multifamily type development would apply to the, or would be subject to the objective design standards, all the way from 2-unit lots to duplexes, townhomes, multifamily and residential development. And then this is just an example of some of the areas or topic areas objective design standards include. It could address site design, building design, architectural styles, sustainable design, landscaping, and so forth. And again, this will be all codified in the zoning code. Somewhat related to the housing element, there are some correlating components. But another state requirement, particularly for cities that have some, well, I'll talk about this in a moment, but we're preparing a new environmental justice. And it's not because, I think it's an important topic area, but it's also a state requirement. And so just as a context, what's environmental justice? Simply, it is making sure that residents, certain residents, particularly those that are burdened by pollution burdens, there's a meaningful involvement in terms of decision making for them, and that there are challenges that some of those neighborhoods or residents are facing, particularly pollution burdens, are addressed or looked at through the environmental justice element. And the other key thing is making sure they're involved in decision making that affects particular neighborhoods. So really, again, it's more of an equal access to resources, protection of environmental hazards. The state has identified a list of criteria of what those environmental hazards could be. It could be living near a freeway, areas that were contaminated previously. So those are all different areas that the environmental justice element will look at. But what's something that was defined by the state is what's called a disadvantaged community. They take a look at a lot of demographic characteristics, but I'd say more than a dozen different pollution burdens or hazards. And again, I talked about air quality, living near freeways, traffic, hazardous waste transfer, so forth. There's these various indicators that they looked at, and they rate specific census tracts where they have deemed them as disadvantaged communities. In the city of Downey, there are several census tracts that are classified as disadvantaged communities. Those are areas that we will be looking at a little bit more closer through the environmental justice element, but we will be looking at the entire city. Because really what the environmental justice element looks to address is reducing some of those pollution burdens. It could be through policy level, it could be through some implementation actions, but access to healthy foods is a component that the state law requires to look at. Access to physical activity, meaning making sure that there's neighborhoods or access to parks, trails, and even recreation programs that include physical activity. Safe and sanitary homes is important, and that's addressed in the housing element, but the environmental justice element ensures there's consistency with that. Other key things that it must look at is, again, looking at those disadvantaged communities is prioritizing improvements within those areas. It doesn't say you have to put all of your money within improvements within those areas, but prioritizing disadvantaged communities is one element or component of the environmental justice element. And then, as I mentioned earlier, promoting more civic engagement, targeting those disadvantaged community areas, making sure that they're aware of decisions on projects, infrastructure projects, development projects, that there's meaningful engagement with these communities, and that's also addressed in the element itself. And community engagement is important for the environmental justice element, but this entire project is going to have an engagement program. And part of the goals of this engagement program is we started through the housing element doing engagement for the housing element itself. What we want to do is continue that engagement. We learned quite a bit through the engagement through the housing element, but through these different programs, we want to build off of those engagement, the things that we learned, the engagement findings. So these are the key goals that we wanted to come from this particular project. Again, continuing the housing element. And then, really learning from the community, learning what we learned from the housing element. And then also the environmental justice element is really important for engagement, not only for providing engagement strategies, but engaging with those disadvantaged communities. The engagement activities that we're taking on is we'll be having community leader interviews, focus group meetings, several community workshops. We're going to do a specific environmental justice survey, series of facts, flyers, and newsletters, social media. We'll use a lot of the tools you're already using, but making sure we're using Spanish language translation. That's part of our contract as well. But community leader interviews, we will be meeting specifically with members of City Council, Planning Commission, staff, and other community leaders. Focus groups, we're going to definitely be meeting with residents, but with different components. Within objective design standards, we want to meet with architects that are working locally in Downey, developers, property owners. For the areas that we're doing overlays, we want to talk with property owners and businesses. We want to make sure we're engaging with these stakeholders up front before we go through and prepare documents and meet them at public hearings. We're making sure we're engaging with these various groups. The environmental justice survey will be key because we want to target those disadvantaged communities, but other areas, where are there park challenges or physical activity challenges? Where are we struggling with access to foods? We'll have an English and Spanish survey, both paper and a digital survey. So we want to make sure we're targeting specific areas as well. Our different outreach methods, and I think the city does such a great job already with email blasts, social media, announcements. I saw the Downey strategic plan being announced here for the survey. We want to make sure we're doing really good graphic flyers, newsletters and so forth, and Spanish translations of the materials, but different ways to reach the community. We've started to prepare, we're working with City on preparing an online story map of environmental justice. What does it mean? But more for the general public to understand it, because environmental justice, particularly the technical part, it gets a little bit complicated on the different criteria and the indicators. We're preparing an easy online map that can use your cell phone or your home desktop to scroll through the maps and the different criteria to understand, the different pollution challenges and so forth. All right, so our project timeline. This spring, after this presentation, we will be starting our public engagement process with our interviews, our focus groups, and so forth. During later part of the spring, we'll start prepare the land use element, the new environmental justice element. Later in the summer, that's when we'll really get into our zoning updates, and then fall of next year. Because we're doing a land use element and those units that we've identified, the housing element, we're putting those into the land use element. We do have to prepare an environmental impact report. So that'll also be prepared after we do the land use element, and that'll come to the hearing before you as well. And then next year, I think probably about this time or maybe a little bit earlier, we'll bring this forward for adoption. But throughout that whole process, we want to make sure that we're engaging with the community. So that concludes my presentation. Both Ms. Hutron and myself are here to answer any questions.
I have some questions, if I may. Thank you for the presentation. Very, very well done. I think some of my colleagues will have some comments regarding the disadvantaged community portion. And as we see in the map that you showed on the slide, and we see more or less where the disadvantaged community areas are in our city, I think it's important to note over the last several years, we were intentional about expanding our tree canopy, and we work with the tree people. Downey, as we know, sits in the middle of all these freeways, and of course pollution is of grave concern. Now, one of the things I think we need to do a better job is, when you talk about community engagement, is educating our community members, and as we know, our community continues to change, and when we talk to sometimes our Latino population, as much as we wanted to plant hundreds of trees throughout our city to increase the tree canopy, and we know that trees, provide oxygen and reduce gas emissions, and they, for mental health, and just lost my train of thought. The benefits of trees are great to any community, but I think we need to do a better job, because some members of our community may not see or understand that. Also, we need to do a better job if we are offering trees where we plant these trees. I know we ran into many residents that perhaps were not consulted where the trees were planted. And again, when we also talk about roots, getting into the plumbing or certain areas where residents were concerned of, I think, again, if we do a better job at educating and informing our community, again, we can clearly address the pollution hazards and the benefits of trees, right? We know that on average, tree shade can reduce heating or, by 20 or 45 degrees, depending. And so as our planet continues to get warmer, and as we're going to continue to experience potentially hotter summers, it is really important to do a better job. And again, engagement is the key word. And I know we try very hard, and not always, the community may or may not always be as receptive, but certainly communicating, having that message to those areas that we've identified as disadvantaged. I know we've as a council, we've put great effort in revitalizing our parks, and certainly there are areas where the community can go, and there are trails, and we can certainly relook at those as well. But the education component regarding trees and how essential they are could be huge.
Great. Understood. Thank you.
I would like to tag on to the tree comment, because in a couple meetings prior, we have a concrete project that's going on Lakewood Boulevard by the 105. And if you can recall, we were going to remove it up to like 60, 70 trees. And that really, stuck with me. It is in one of those disadvantaged areas that we have in South Downey. And again, whatever we can do to save the tree, I know the root hazards and have issues, but like you said, a mature tree can take, decades to get somewhere to where they are today, so.
Yeah, and I think, from an economic perspective, I think a tree in a person's front lawn can increase the property value by, $20,000 or $30,000. Again, people don't necessarily understand or know or are aware the value of trees from an economic standpoint, but also all of the health benefits. And coming out of a global pandemic, having trees to clean the environment is crucial. But some of our Latino folks, I don't want those leaves on the ground, so let's chop the tree so I don't have to deal with it. And that's really.
Thank
Anyway,
you.
that's neither
If I
here or
may,
there. I
thank you.
digress.
Thank you for your comments, council members, on the trees and the canopies, and elaborate on that. I just want to maybe expand a little bit on the environmental justice element and the topics that you're bringing up. The environmental justice element will provide the city an opportunity to inventory the programs that we already have in place and memorialize those various programs as part of the environmental justice elements as actions that the city's taking and committing to continuing to address, not only in the environmental justice, socioeconomic issues that Jose brought up, but also to address the sustainability and the heat island effect and other things that were mentioned today. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is about education and understanding, and discussing with the housing element team about outreach. One thing that there was a screenshot of it, of the environmental justice story map that Jose mentioned. That would be something that is on the website, also on a mobile device. And we know that's limited outreach, but we wanted to create something that's a living kind of informational document versus a pamphlet or something somebody has to flip through. And really what it's already in draft form, close to being as part of the outreach. But what it'll do is it'll be in English and in Spanish, and it will address things like tree canopies and parks, and what is environmental justice elements, and what are the things that the cities can do to address those various topics, and to kind of bring it to life in a bilingual format. So that's something that we're hoping to promote during the outreach events that we plan to have our team go out to, not only the surveys, but also being able to educate in different formats.
Well, that's definitely very helpful. And we know that particularly in an election year where residents are going to be bombarded with all kinds of materials and information, something like this, please let us know how we and within our districts can also help in delivering you know, that information and the messaging, because yes, everybody is, you know, turns to social media and their mobile devices, but then again, there might be some that don't have access.
And I just want to touch on how we can help, especially for me. It took me a little while. I'm still looking at the map, and you know, when I see that the disadvantaged communities, the majority is my district, and it's a little hard to stomach that on my behalf as a representative of how I can help my district to address these situations. So I something that I want to do is maybe sit down with Roger later on and maybe see how we can address these situations and change my plan of action of how I can help my community at a different, or approach it at a different manner. But also if there's anything I can do to, you know, I'm a very social media person, so I like to post and send letters to my residents, but whatever I can, because it was hard to see this, and I pulled it out just for me to like really look at it. So, but yes, if we can help, whatever we can to send out, especially during this time.
Yeah, we will take you up on that offer. As part of the stakeholder outreach, we will be interviewing city council, and so there'll be an opportunity to us to expand on what the map means. We know it's a lot to take in tonight, but we can educate a little bit further about what the map means, how it ties into the housing element, and then definitely how you can help us with outreach, because we do want to do that as well.
And you know, and I think that it's also imperative that we do a better job when we look at housing opportunities, or you know, developments within our city. Those of us that have been here for 30 or 40 years or even longer, we obviously see our city changing. We see the stress in our infrastructure, certainly the stress on our police and fire. While at the same time, the you know, the shall is not, if you want to, Downey, is you shall build X number of units. And so I think it's important, and it's incumbent upon us to do a better job at letting this information out so that our community and our residents understand that we also have an obligation to protect our residents and serve them, while at the same time, we do need to consider many housing developments, because that is part of this mandate. And that's what we are on the hook for. I think it's ridiculous and unattainable, over 6,000 housing units for the city. But nonetheless, as we continue to look at opportunities for development, the residents need to know that we will be entertaining those, because that's what we have to do.
Could I ask on your expertise, how did the state, what formula did they use to give our magic number of 6,500? Is it on per square miles? Is it on
We asked that during the
population?
planning commission. We
Yeah.
asked that. Or
That's another.
So
Did I miss that?
So the state gave down that number. I think I had it on there, was 1.3 million for the 6-county area, and then LA County had a number. SCAG actually developed a formula to take that number and then distribute it amongst the different jurisdictions, all the cities in the 6-county area, all the counties, the unincorporated areas also had that number. So there's a formula. I don't have that exact formula, but it takes into account disadvantaged communities. It takes into account different socioeconomic data, and there's this formula, and then and so forth. There's an economic component to it as well. And then there was SCAG didn't make the formula available. There was a draft. There was allowed for comments, and then cities actually had a chance to object to that number. I think only like 1 or 2 cities actually got the number changed. It's very, very minimal. Most cities got the number.
So it's not a flat
no,
rate,
they did
because
not.
residents are asking, is it based on square miles? Is it population? I didn't. It's just,
The formula calls that out. It has to do
Okay.
with, it goes back to building permit data, so on and so on, but there's a formula to it. And each city was different. So yeah.
And I remember as a planning commissioner, we sent out a letter rejecting that the number.
so I wonder what's the magic number for Vernon? Because they don't have much housing, right? It's commercial or? I don't know.
Yeah,
I had a couple of things. Well, I'm assuming it's Senator Scott Wiener who came up with those numbers from Sacramento. But as far as the community outreach, I would like to be engaged in the southwest portion of Downey, mainly around the Stewart and Gray and Old River School Road intersection around that area. So you can count me in, please.
Thank you for that.
So 6525 units and two questions. How many ADUs are part of that mix and what's our current count right now?
So I don't have the current count, but the number of ADUs that Jose went over is, we've projected over the 8-year term of the housing element, there would be 507 ADUs, and that was state required cities to look at their past performance, if you will, of how many ADUs had been developed in the city, and they were very they required cities to be very conservative, not overinflate the number of ADUs, so that cities wouldn't just say, oh, my RENA units would be ADUs. So 507 is reflective of the city's past performance of how many units have been proposed in Downey. I can report back on the number of ADUs. I don't have that handy, but I know we do have quite a bit of activity of ADUs in the city.
Right. Yeah. If I can get, I'm just curious the current number of housing units as well as ADUs.
We will do that.
Or what number of that from that is ADUs as well?
We can report back on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members have questions or comments? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion and a second to receive and file the report. Motion.
Second.
Please vote. We need a vote. Receive and file? Huh? Okay, sure. Okay, we'll vote. All right. Thank you.
The motion is approved unanimously.
The City Council will now adjourn in memory of Patrolman Justin Hare of the New Mexico State Police, who was fatally shot while on duty. Sergeant Thomas Sanfratello of the Genesee County Sheriff's Office, who passed after being attacked while responding to a disturbance. Border Patrol Agent Christopher Luna of the United States Department of Homeland Security, who tragically died in a helicopter crash. Firefighter Jonathan Van Offelen of the Los Angeles County Fire Department Fire Station 52 in the city of Vernon, who died while on duty. And Jesus Guzman, age 32, City of Downey employee, Public Works, Utilities, Sewer, and Stormwater Section. A moment of silence, please. The meeting is adjourned. The time is 9:03 p.m. Thank you.